Hello everyone and welcome to that Eurovision site's YouTube channel. My name is Janek, I use any pronouns, and I am joined by Isabelle, they use they them pronouns. Today, together with Isabelle, we'll be discussing the results of, as the Finnish said, UMK 2023. The selection for Finland for Eurovision, and the selection was won by Kerja and his song Cha 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 with an astounding sweep. Like the Eurovision community loves this word so much, so we call him the sweep. He won with over 400 points. He got 3 sets of 12 points from the jury, 3 sets of 10 points, and 1 set of 6 points, which even the jury results was very much sided with him. And in the televotes, he got 53% of the whole voting. And a reminder that the televotes were 75% of the result, so that also can be viewed as why the sweep was so huge compared to the jury results were rather close, and the points were rather low. 14 boys who finished second in comparison got only 14.1% of the vote. I say only, like it wasn't compared to the rest, wasn't huge. And they finished second, and third place was finished by Kira, which was her debut as an artist, so that's an accomplishment for her. Fourth place was Robin, fifth was Kuma. We have 6 Alexandra and Benjamin finishing dead last. So starting our discussions, we're talking about Cha 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 and our opinions about the song, and what do we think Kerja is finishing in May?
This is such an interesting question because he's swept the fandom. I feel like there are people who are not into Cha Cha Cha, but I feel like he's going to sweep the televote in come the grand final at Eurovision as well. I think he might win, in fact, I think he'll definitely win his semi-final. I just can't imagine a situation where he doesn't win the semi-final. What I'm trying to say is I think that the international support for Kerja is as great as the Finnish support was. Which was evidenced by the 75%, that's Finnish viewers by and large. I mean, I know that there's some getting around the online voting. I know some people in other countries did vote online, but largely speaking, he was obviously hugely supported by his own country. I think that's going to be replicated in May. And I think I see him winning the semi-final that he's in, and I see him winning the televote in the grand final. I think this is a contender to win Eurovision. I will say that this year, and this is just my opinion, I know that other people, and actually probably you, Janek, disagree with me, but I feel like currently we've only heard 3 or 4 songs that I think really could win Eurovision this year. I might be incorrect, but that is how I feel. Cha 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 is one of them. And it's less about the song itself. To me, it's about the stage performance. Cha 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 was not my winner at UMK this year, and the standard was very high, but it wasn't my winner. It wasn't even my number 2, it was like my number 3. But the stage performance is undeniable. It's the way that they staged it at UMK was so good. It was so he managed to capture the boxing ring kind of delirium of the music video and of the song itself. The song is wild. It's a wild ride. It's like, I mean, the character of Kerja is a character, right? Jere has created this character, Kerja, and he is just kind of he's a loose cannon, right? And the lyrics are essentially about getting obliterated at the bar and then like losing yourself on the dance floor, pouring champagne down yourself. Like it's a wild ride. And it's vocally delivered in this really kind of like intense, almost like like he's a rapper, but it's almost like a metal sound, the vocal sound. And then it's like this rave like track, and then there's this like poppy like sort of, the chorus itself is really poppy. It's a very strange piece of music, and what sells it is that staging. And he's a fantastically entertaining performer. He said in his interview with Yle, that was on the YouTube channel of UMK, that that's his kind of his main desire is to entertain, that he's not the best singer, he's not the best rapper, but his desire is to entertain. He's a brilliant entertainer, and that's absolutely true. I'm glad it won, even though it wasn't my winner, because in a way I don't think in a way I can't really argue for anything else having been more deserving of the win. Just that staging is Eurovision ready. It's so camp and it's just so polished already, and it's just a party. I mean, it's crazy, it's party, right? So I see this. If this doesn't make the top 5, I will be astonished. And quite frankly, depending on how the televote and juries go, I mean, it would be a surprise if the juries really went for this, wouldn't it? Obviously the semis at Eurovision are televote only, so that's why I really see it winning the semi without contest. It will be interesting to see. We've seen, haven't we, the last couple of winners that we've had have been televote winners that have been put to the top by a sweeping televote. And so I'm not suggesting that we'll see a Ukraine 2022 situation with Kadia this year, but I can see a Måneskin situation, Italy 2021. I can totally see that happening, where, depending on how he's rated with the juries, the televote could absolutely knock him up to first place. And I think that he's a real contender to win. I think he's almost definitely going to win the televote, or he's going to be top 2 in the televote. I know that there's a lot of support for a couple of the other artists in the running, and I would actually, I mean, I'm team Spain this year, but I would love to see Kadia win. Like, he's the kind of artist who I just don't think I can't begrudge him winning what he's winning. Like, it's delightful to see. He's such an intriguing, quirky, unique character, but also a unique artist, and I love to see that. So I'm really happy he won. I'm really excited to see how it goes down in May.
Yeah. So that was my winner from the first listen. So I am very happy that this one. And it's currently still my second place. It was first for a bit, but my obsession over Lalfa this year is too strong. So they are tied for first. I will say that because when it comes to Eurovision, I love to listen to songs that don't particularly I would look for outside of the contest. Like I said a lot. Like I forgot, Hungary 2018. Wyświetniar is my winner of the year, despite me not being a big fan of metal, and rock being also one of my favorite genres in Eurovision. But outside, I am not that keen on it. So Chata did something to me, like combining two styles that I enjoy, and it has worked. So I'm like, I am so thrilled for him that he won, because when he was being interviewed before UMK, he said that he came to win and go to Eurovision. UMK wasn't his, it isn't his like plan. His plan always was Eurovision, and he's done it, and he's being a meme machine. So, so yeah. So when it comes to the results in May, I think his will be in semi. I think he will be finishing either first or second. The only thing I'm like the only country that I'm thinking of maybe winning instead is Croatia because of the meme potential. And it already be charting a lot in a lot of countries. Like I took a look at on the Polish viral top 50, and I saw Mama's cheated. I was like, what? But Cha was third, so it already is doing runs around Europe. So Cha is a very high contender for winning the televote, and I won't be surprised if he wins the televote. Absolutely not. So it just depends how the locals will look at other like televote friendly songs in semi-1.
I think that actually it's Norway and Sweden that could give him a run for his money. I don't see Croatia hitting the way.
If Lorena wins, then yeah. If Lorena wins, on Saturday, I know one this they were really recording it on the 8th is Wednesday before Melfest and Festival de Canção finals. So we're not sure when. But yeah, I agree with Sweden, Norway as well. But I don't know if Norway, maybe it's people who will not listen to it first time, maybe they will like it. I feel like the hype for Norway is slowly burning down. I feel like, but we'll see in May. Like we had the same conversations last year when Citizen suddenly blew up on TikTok, and we were sure that we could fight because of TikTok. But yeah, but I think Alessandra is different topic because Queen of Kings blew up. So Chacha's performance was just, I think, pack it and send it to Liverpool. Literally nothing needs to be changed. Like only rescale it to the Liverpool stage, and I just love how his character progresses through the performance. Like he starts to be like a masculine, manly person, and then the second part of the song is like, I'm just a guy. I'm I'm having fun, and I don't know. The only thing I'm confused about is the everyone who was watching the performance was like, is that a human centipede? Is that a human centipede moment? Like,
I'm glad you mentioned it because I had the thought and I was like, why is no one talking about the human centipede?
I was watching like reactions to this, and I was like, everyone is talking about the human centipede, and I'm like, okay, I'm not the only one who's speaking about the human centipede, so maybe do something else with this part, but it's fine if it doesn't change. Absolutely fine. Like even the palace being used as the ring instead of like having the actual ring and it opening up to the dance floor. So I think it was so well staged. And as I said, Kera isn't the best vocalist, but I thought he was the best vocalist of the night. Like maybe it's a white assumption, but I think it was the best vocally out of everyone on the night. Even because I thought with most of the other artists, like the staging was too much for the vocal sometimes. Like I think of some, like I probably will talk about later. The new UMK, I think could have the same or a little better vocals were Alexandra because she was other static throughout her performance. So and the song needed the vocals more than the performance itself. But so with this, I will move on because we could talk about the amazing thing that is Cha 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 for hours. We want to talk about the other songs because I feel like these results aren't paying them justice because it was. I think this was the best national selection this year, and maybe I know if you I will have to maybe think about this because there were some great selections a few years ago, but one of the strongest selections we had in a while. And as I said, second place Bottom Boys, third Kira, fourth Robin, fifth Kuma, sixth Alexandra, seventh place Benjamin, just a reminder that Portland Boys got second televote but got last in the jury. Alexandra was second in the jury. I think Kira was also third. Robin was around like 4th, 5th, much as Kuma as well. Benjamin was 6th in the jury, if I remember correctly, but he got like 12 points from Sweden, Poland, and someone else, I think. I remember Sweden, Poland because Sweden, Cornelia giving Benjamin at 12 was amazing. So I know I'm about to break.
He only got Benjamin only got two lots of 12. You might be thinking of Australia gave him 8, so maybe you're thinking of that.
Okay. So I know I'm about to break it down because I know Isabelle will just start ranting about a certain song. But what are your thoughts about other songs in the selection that performed online?
I'm a bit of an oddity, I think, in terms of the UMK audience at the moment, and certainly this year, in that for me, actually, I and we'll talk about the shows, the show. There was only one show. We'll talk about the show in in a moment. For me, the song selection, like I wasn't that into, both this year and last year, which have been the 2 years I've actually followed it. I've been really disappointed by the song selection. So, for example, UMK last year, loads of people were saying that it was their favourite selection, that it had the strongest selection. There was only one song I liked. Now, the song I liked last year, Kumayaba, I loved. I loved with the passion of 1,000 burning suns. It was... Let's not talk about the robbery that was. Oh my God, that was so undervalued. It makes me so upset. It was one of my favorite songs of the entire national final season last year. But every other song last year, I was like, this is nothing to me, nothing. And I know that's controversial because some of the biggest fan favorites, I'm thinking of Bess, and I'm thinking of Ram Pum Pum, were in the selection last year. And it's a sort of a similar thing this year, that I preferred the song selection this year. There were like a number of songs that I warmed to over the course of, the weeks since their release. But by and large, I was like quite let down. I was not particularly excited. I was curious more than excited about the UMK final show. There's one huge exception to this. I mean, I've already said that Cha 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 I really appreciate, but it wasn't my winner. I wasn't even interested in it really until I saw it live. I literally wasn't listening to it, wasn't watching the music video, had watched it like once or twice just to kind of, get to know it. I was aware that there was a lot of hype, but I wasn't particularly interested in it at all. Ilivoimanen really grew on me. So I got to a point where Kuma became my number 2. I was like quite happy with the idea that Kuma might win. There was, this sounds ridiculous now that we know how much Karya landslid it by. It seems ludicrous to even consider anybody else might have won. But there was a moment, you'll remember, leading up to the contest, like actually on the night of the contest, Kuma by that point were really doing well in the charts. Ilivoimanen was, or I think possibly even doing better than it was mounting. It was mounting in kind of in streams and in popular, people were clearly really hyped for it. And there was a moment where we thought it might be the one to give Cha 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 a run for its money. In the end, obviously it didn't. But I do really love it. I love the nostalgia in it. There's something just really beautifully. I think that band does that nostalgia. To me, it's nostalgia because there's a lot that's reminiscent of sort of like late 80s sound in it. And I just love that in almost every way, where in every kind of incarnation, that late 80s sort of recollections of late 80s music almost always kind of get me where I live. I, was born in the mid 80s, so it's sort of, it's sort of a kind of a crucial part of my identity, I guess. But I really did love that. That the live performance was fine. It was very good, but I understand perfectly why it didn't, grab more votes, because it didn't do, in a way, maybe it did just the right amount for the song. Like it was a good staging for the song. It didn't do enough to even rival some of the other stagings we saw. And it really was the stagings that brought all of these songs to life. That was the thing. As I was watching it, I was like, songs that I didn't like before, and there are a couple in this selection that I just don't like because of the lyrics. I think all of the one thing that this selection has is that every single one of these tunes was melodically, musically excellent, like flawless. And just there were a couple of songs where I was like, did not like the lyrics at all. The thing that really got me was like watching all of the different, every single act was, with the exception possibly, I think No Business on the Dance Floor didn't quite do enough. It didn't live up to, I know a lot of people were excited for that song. I think that it stood out to me as the one that the staging didn't do enough. But like the song kind of deserved more in a way than the staging gave it. But other than that, like every single staging, I was like, this is great. I'm having a great time. Like, I don't like Girls Like You, you know, but Robin doing his little like flips and cartwheels, like it wasn't a very confident performance, which was confusing from, maybe it was because he, you know, went first, but you know, this vocalist who's supposed to be all about the vocal, and he is a really good singer. Like, it wasn't even that good a vocal performance, but like it was the staging that just really made it. So that was the thing that really kind of that made a lot of these numbers. The one song that just from the second I heard it, I was like, this is the best thing I've ever heard in my life. I don't know who I was without it. Is Hoidamut. I can't be normal about Benjamin. I will try to explain why it's such a great song and why it's like so culturally important to me personally, but I think also in general, and why the staging was so powerful as well. Because here's the thing, I know a lot of people were disappointed by his live vocals. We knew that he's not a strong vocalist. He's not a vocalist primarily. That's just not his thing. Like, this is a kid he's been making music for like years and years and years, but he started life as an influencer. He's been famous since he was 15. Like, he's been on a whole journey like in the public eye. And we know that his thing isn't like, he won Dancing with the Stars. He's a better dancer than he is a vocalist by miles. What he is, though, is a cultural phenomenon. Like, he's an icon and a performer. And I mean, it was a tough gig to live up to the Hoidam music video. If you're watching this video and you haven't listened or listening to the podcast and you haven't actually gone and watched Benjamin's music video for Hoidamut, you have to do that now. Like, stop watching this, go and do that, because it is the gayest thing I've ever seen in my life. Positive. It's so good that there was no way his stage show could ever live up to that in a way. So I appreciate that they did something completely different with the staging. You know, the music video takes place in the steamy greenhouse. You get that lovely wink at the very end of the video where he puts the plant back as though absolutely nothing has happened, where you get the sense that the whole thing has been this like fever fantasy. It's explicit, the lyrics are explicitly sexual, they're explicitly about a sexual encounter. It's important, I think, also to know, in case you don't, that, and again, this comes from the Ula interview that he gave, which is on the UMK YouTube channel. I really recommend watching it. There were, you know, English subtitles. He talked about how he, for years and years, growing up in the public eye, essentially, he knew he was gay, but he just assumed that he would never talk about it openly. He's said that there aren't really a lot of out gay role models in the public eye in Finland. And so he just sort of thought, I'll just never mention it publicly, you know. And there was just a point where he was singing music that wasn't really authentic to him, that other people had written for him. And he was noticing that at his gigs, there would be like girls with signs saying, "Marry me, Benjamin." And that he saw that. And I mean, I'm sure lots of other artists would see that and just be like, yeah, fine, whatever. That's what fans are like. And I mean, that is what fans are like. So it's kind of funny to me that he saw that and he was like, oh no, they don't know that it's impossible. Because he knew he was gay. He knew. And he was like, oh, I'm actually misleading people here, which I think is interesting. Not everybody feels that way, but he clearly did. He felt that it was inauthentic. And I think it was probably a combination of the way he talked about it. It seems like it was a combination of he wasn't being true to himself, but he also wasn't singing music that he wasn't singing in a genre he liked. He wasn't singing music he himself would listen to. He wasn't singing music that he himself had written. And he said that I just love this. It's so heartbreaking because it's like, it's so relatable. We're both queer, right? So we both kind of have like our own experiences that kind of are analogous to this, I'm sure. But he said that he like, so his songs would have like she, her pronouns in them addressed to the person, you know, because all these love songs, right? But he would just like move the microphone away at the times where he'd have to sing the pronouns. And he sort of hoped that people would notice. And of course they didn't, you know, but he did come out eventually, but really relatively recently. He came out and a Pride gig in 2021. And I mean, he then released the song Gay, which don't you just love that? Like when he decided to come out,
it's the best song to exist.
Like, let's do it. Let's, you know, there's so much beautiful footage of him performing that song and like just handing the microphone over to the audience and they're all yelling about being gay. It's great. It's just very affirming. So all of this to say, and I'm so sorry if you're like, actually, I don't care about Benjamin's backstory, Isabelle. Like, can you just like piss off? Like, take your husband, your flower boyfriend, and like leave because you're embarrassing us. I mean, listen, I'm beyond embarrassment. The way that he talked about what Hoydamut meant to him in as part of this journey, it really is like the next level of his like affirming his authentic voice. So yeah, he's not a great singer. But here's the thing, okay? Eurovision is a song contest, it's not a singing contest. So I know that like some people really focus on vocals. Some songs require it. Like you said, Lysandra's song, you know, really needed a beautiful vocal. Like some songs require, and Karia's didn't, you know, some songs require a very impeccable, technically impeccable vocal. And the thing with Hoydamut was it didn't. Would it have been wonderful if he had sung the whole song not slightly off key? Of course it would have been wonderful, but so much more important to me. And it was funny actually because Janek was live tweeting, and there was a point where you atted me on Twitter, and you're like, how is that? How are you feeling? And you said, how are you feeling? Oh, I'm feeling a bit underwhelmed. And I like was just like, thriving, happy, elated, never been better. Because here's the thing, the staging. So you thought that the greenhouse video was like the lustiest, raunchiest, gayest thing you'd ever seen in your life. Okay, the staging at UMK of Hoydamut was even gayer, was even lustier. Like and I called it, obviously, and it didn't take a crystal ball. Like the choreo was always going to be perfect, and it was great. I know that for some people it was a bit too sparse, you know, that like just that red light which kind of blended into the red of his costume. It kind of that is really hard to get right, but I think it worked. Like he just ended up looking like he was radiating heat, which for the song, which is just this lusty song, worked perfectly. And the weird fucking lightsaber circle, like I don't know who decided that was a good idea, but it worked with the choreo. I mean, basically the second he gave one of the lightsabers a hand job, I was like, oh, okay, now we're in business. And obviously the moment that we need to talk about is when the the one like man in black, this mysterious stranger who hasn't been on the stage at all, walks onto the stage, and in the penultimate chorus, there's this handover of the microphone. He caresses Benjamin's cheek as he takes the microphone from him, which already you're like, oh, this is very homosexual. This is erotic. Like just that caress of the cheek. And then Benjamin doesn't break eye contact with him, gets to his knees, and then with that microphone pointed at his face, I said to you, at dick height. It's stylized. It's not quite, but it's stylized so that it's very obvious what it's very obvious what sexual act they are stylized, they are expressing a stylized version of, but it's, it's still stylized, so it's art, it's still art. And then he sings that last chorus into the microphone. That the look on his face said everything for me. Like he just looked so thrilled, he just looked so thrilled. And hearing him talk about how for him it was such an important moment, it was such an important moment in being himself authentically, being accepted as himself authentically, for the first time being accepted really on such a huge scale as himself. And this is the thing, like as queer people, we just want to be accepted as ourselves. We just want to be seen as ourselves, not have to hide, and to just, be told, yeah, you're okay, that's okay. And the cheer when he went down on his knees, I'm just never going to get over that. The audience roared. It was spine tingling. And so I don't care that he was a little bit off key the whole way through. I actually literally couldn't care less. It was the most important thing that's ever happened, on the UMK stage, as far as I'm concerned. And yes, I've only ever seen 2 years, but that's enough. That's enough for me to know that it was so important. It was so good.
So thank you for this massive rant, Isabel. I think everyone listening to it enjoyed your thesis about Benjamin's staging. I couldn't add more. It was my third favorite coming into the selection. So I'm just going to leave everything about Hoyland about what Isabel said, because you can tell more. I can tell more. Maybe you can tell more, but I can't. But yeah, I think I was as I said with Hoyland, I was underwhelmed up until the part that the circle. I was like, that was the moment I was like, okay, that suddenly made a quick turn into a different direction. But yeah, on the part, the hand job, the power was that, I was like, but yeah, I think I love Benjamin. I was familiar with him before UMK was okay at announced. Like I was familiar with most of the artists that were taking part this year. That's why maybe I have a different view of the selection, because I was like most of these artists I was like was on my wish list to represent Eurovision. None of them won, but that career is amazing. Like I knew of Robin, I knew of Kuma, I knew of Alexandra, I knew of Benjamin. So like, and I kind of knew about Potterboy because I don't know the music. I kind of knew the name, but yeah, the only one that I didn't know was Keria and Kira. So that's two other songs that Isabel didn't mention. Robin's song I like, but comparing it to his other songs, I didn't enjoy as much. I thought the staging was silly, like didn't add anything to the song. Like you are talking about loving a girl and you are doing a flip. You are just a silly little guy. Silly little guy. Kuma was also was one song from Kuma that I really love, that I'm happy that I feel, but I was kind of down by the performance. Like I thought there will be more shadow play than what they're doing, and more like the vibe from the music video. What I kind of understood, because from the interviews they said that they aren't here for Eurovision, they want just to promote them as well. But and they promoted it, the song that they were first for a few weeks on the Finnish charts. Understandable, because this is a very radio-friendly song, and understandable. And I hope maybe they one day could come back and with and maybe go to Eurovision. Like, guys, please. And maybe go in a different road. They have a little bit of rockish sounds in their music discography, so I kind of hope maybe that route, because this year was very pop heavy. Like we had one ballad and the rest of was pop songs, disaster, pop songs and disasters. That was most of it. To talk about Benjamin, I want to applaud Kira for her result, because third place, and this is her first ever song released. This is insane for a newbie coming into a competition. Like, the only background she has is the voice of Finland, and then she didn't go far. I think semis. I don't know if she was a final. I don't quote me on that, but she wasn't a name out of all these 7 acts, and she finished third. She got third in televotes, and I think she was also third or fourth in juries. She did better than Robin, who has a massive fan base in Finland. That's impressive. The performance, I would say, was nice. I kind of expected more. Maybe because I was expecting, I was maybe more because I was like super focused on the visuals from her music video, like the pink and pastels, and she went for a more black in her performance. She said that she was like K-pop is one of her favorite music genres, and she said that she was inspired by the performance, and I kind of see it. But I always find, when I hear artists say that they are inspired by K-pop, I'm scared because this means, like we saw with FM this year, like they literally put Blackpink do performance on YouTube and said, okay, how can we do this but worse? And that's why I'm scared. I'm always scared about these performances that are inspired by K-pop songs, because most of artists who are saying, "Oh, I am inspired by K-pop songs," aren't dancers. K-pop artists are trained to be dancers. Not everyone who is coming to competition in Europe is dancer. Like I said, Benjamin is dancer more than a singer. We knew that his vocals won't be the best, but he's an icon. He's a gay icon. Like, please go listen to his other songs, especially Gay, who has one of the best lyrics. Also, the lyrics about being so far across the girls in Narnia is just so clever. And I wouldn't think about that. That's such a easy comparison to do, but I wouldn't think about it. It's just fun. Lysandra, I was kind of disappointed by the staging. Like from the rehearsal clips we saw, it's like, oh, this is so artsy, but so beautiful. But then I saw the performance, I was like,
me too. I was
this doesn't make
so ready.
sense.
I was so ready to. I mean, I early on, before I really kind of got into some of the other acts, Alexandra was like really the only other artist other than Benjamin who I thought was at all interesting. And then, you know, I kind of like got into some of the others, and but yeah, those rehearsal snippets that we saw, I was like, oh my god, I'm ready to fall in love with this song like properly, because it was all kind of dreamy, ethereal, kind of shimmery fabric and play of light, and then yeah, somehow that mood got kind of lost in the final staging, which is so interesting, isn't it? So yeah, really unusual that it happens that way around.
Yeah, I think she was very static. I think, like, I know there's a lot of staging that the person who's singing is more static and the dancers are doing the job mostly. But I felt like it was usually very static for what she was doing. She was doing the hand movements with the dancers, but sure, I know something was lost, and I kind of the song being something to lose. Yeah, it's just ironic. But yeah,
She had something to lose, and she did indeed lose it.
I mean, she did place second in the juries, but that's great. But she placed last in the televote. I last, but it was, I think, like 1-2 points between her and Benjamin, which is a robbery. But yeah, Porter Boys. I have a love-hate relationship with the song. I like, on the first listen, I kind of liked it, but then it started growing off me, and then the rehearsal clip was released. I was like, oh my god, I hate this. Like, I had absolute of this. And the staging was nice. I really liked the performance, but I said that the flags were really silly. But yeah, my favorite part about Porter Boys' performance was the girl, the woman that was so energetic. She was so fun.
Someone on the socials was like, what's she even doing there? She like doesn't even have any lines. And then someone else was like, she sings Bucharest. Like, but listen, it's so obvious that she's a really important part of the band. Like, one thing that Ula did so well and does so well, I think, every year, but I only really noticed it this year, was it creates like this kind of universe where they really get the audience to get to know the artists in advance. If you're going to have a one show national final, you have to do that, I think. Eurovision France, that channel does it to a certain extent as well, but I just think no one does it quite as well as Ula, and with their UMK YouTube content, and that it's so obvious that she's such an important part of that band, even if all she does is like cute dancing and quirky movements and sings Bucharest. Like, I would literally give my life for her. She is such a joy.
The video of the artist reacting to other songs is one of my favorite things to ever exist. There is so much memorable content from this. There's one part that she's like, Kuma. I'm like, I love you. And Benjamin coming with probably my favorite reaction image of the season is when he covers his mouth, goes, "Go girl!"
And I said, "Go girl!" Yeah, that was great. Robin who? That whole video is
Go girl. Like,
one of the best.
Editing this out, yeah. You are editing this out, yeah.
Oh yeah, you love that. Every time somebody says
they didn't.
We're editing this out, right? Obviously, that's an immediate, invitation for things to not get edited out. But that reaction video, all of the artists reacting to each other's songs, that did so much work. So for me personally, I was not excited about the song selection until that video, and then I literally came into our group chat and I was like, I'm in love with all of them now. It took me a while to fall in love with Robin, actually. It was the next, they did another thing, which was they called it shock dates, where they paired up artists with each other and then got them to do silly challenges and divulge bits of information and things like that. That was when, because they paired up Kira and Robin, and Kira seemed really starstruck by Robin, and so it was very savvy of them to pair them up, and it was so sweet, and he seemed so sweet. So I was like, oh, I love Robin too. Literally all of them seemed like such sweet, down-to-earth people who really know and love their music. That was the thing that really that came across from that. And it sounds like an obvious thing, but there's a lot of disparagement of these sorts of shows where people are just going for the Eurovision ticket, or they're going for their moment of fame. It's lovely to see artists really breaking down what they're listening to, like the guys from Kuma, like trying to guess who the producers were on different tracks, like people trying to guess who the Tina from Portion Boys, she got every single one. She was the one who was like, this is this person. Oh, this is that person's vocal style. Oh, this sounds like them. You know, you really get that these people live and breathe music. Even the ones who maybe aren't the strongest vocalists or who only sing one line in the song, they're living and breathing it. And it goes a long way to getting us, I think, on board with the whole charade. But yeah, that video is instant serotonin. I've watched it so many
times. We talk about her like being the best performer or singer. Maybe that's not her thing. Maybe we don't know. Maybe she is the one who is writing everything for the like. We don't know if it could be understandable from her reaction. I feel like she has the most music knowledge from all of Portion Boys. Like I feel like maybe she is the one she's the one that's writing the music the most.
And even if she's not, like, hype person is a spot in musical acts. Yeah, not every genre has hype people, but like having like a hype man or a hype woman, right? That's like that's a standard thing that a lot of music acts do. And there was a lot of misogyny in the comment sections of like, you know, their videos. I was like, I mean, I'm sure that people kind of love to kind of like criticize anyone who they don't think is doing that much in the band, but like you said, you can never see what the person is contributing. Like it could literally just be their energy that the rest of the band thrives off. They could be the glue holding it together. You never know. So I love her.
So like as I said, seeing videos like that is just so heartwarming. For me, it's about because I'm looking at my own country and the selection process that's happening right now and what's happening with the results right now in Poland. Like I wish we cared. I mean, the fans care about Eurovision in Poland, but yeah, as I said, everyone's hyping each other up while Polish NF artists are one of them is literally turning others to dust, and like I wish we had something like that. A bit maybe it's only because the person who is the one showing hate is the one who's representing us, but yeah, it's a bit sweet. But I really love Finland's selection. Like and overall, you see it in a lot of national finals. They're giving moments to artists. And we're talking about Finland, and we should be slowly wrapping up because the episode's going long. So, final question is, what did you think of the whole whole show, and do you think Ile should continue with UMK?
I think it works for them. I don't think that this sort of format works for everybody. And I think that, you know, the downside of having a one-night national final with such a small selection of songs is you don't give that platform to that many artists. Like, it's only 7 artists. That's really not a lot. But if those 7 artists really are incredible artists and they're all unique and they're different from each other, then in a way you're doing them more justice by highlighting only a small number. Because I'm thinking of something like Pesma's Eurovision, which is happening in Serbia with 32 artists in the, you know, in the initial stages, and that's too many. I know a lot of us, I know that, you know, I love that selection, and yet I can't invest in it. I tune almost all of it out, and that's a real shame. So part of me prefers like an in-between. Like for me, Benidorm is like the perfect sweet spot, but I do appreciate that a smaller selection works for example, countries like Iceland, where you've got a smaller pool of talent to draw from anyway. So it makes sense to have like only 10 songs in Iceland. With Finland, maybe actually they could expand it and make it 15 songs every year, and that would still be really good and interesting, would give it more variety, maybe, you know, make it more than one show. But this formula does seem to work for them. They have landed on a formula that is very popular. Lots of people cite it every year as their favorite national final. They are getting the quality. It may not be to my tastes, you know, and I may have been disappointed last year, but lots of people were not disappointed last year, right? Maybe I'm just not vibing with, you know, the same genres and styles as they are. I think that provided they keep doing all of the extra content on the social media platforms, because I think that is the real winning factor. We've already kind of discussed all of that. I think if you took away all of that extra content, that bonus content, into the one-on-one interviews, the quirky dates, you know, the little challenges, all of that stuff, if you took away all the bonus content on social media, then it would be too little. It wouldn't satisfy, or it wouldn't satisfy me at least. But they are fantastic at all of that bonus content, and with all of that bonus content, I actually wouldn't change it. I saw people saying they are like ready to host Eurovision, you know, with all of that bonus content, they're like ready. And I agree. And the production value of the shows themselves, incredible. By far and away the star of the show was the actual show itself, which is not something you can say for most of the other selections, in my opinion. I don't think it's even something you can say for some of the song festivals, you know, the Festivali Këngës, the Sanremos. Like, the show itself isn't always necessarily the main event, the main star of the show, you know. I'm getting a little bit meta here. I'm sorry, I do apologize, but with UMK, or at least my feeling this year was that the show itself was the star of the show, and that really creates a sense of an event. Even like one of my favorite national finals is Söngvakeppnin, and that the second semi-final was happening the same night as UMK, and I chose to watch UMK, even though I already knew that my favorite Benjamin wasn't going to win, because it was so obvious that he wasn't going to win against, you know, the Kumas and the Karias. Like, it was so obvious he wasn't going to win, and he didn't come to win. Actually, this is something that I think was it's lovely to find out from that, you know, that bonus content, why different artists are there. Like you said, Kuma were not there to go to Eurovision necessarily, they were there to really promote their work. Kadia was like there to win. Benjamin is a huge Eurovision fan. That's something that was really delightful to discover from the interviews. He was just like, my family are Eurovision fans. Like, all of us have been like literally like watching Eurovision since like as long as I can remember. Like, here are all my favorite artists. Like, here are all the songs we're always sing. Like, delightful. That's delightful. But he said that for him, the main thing was that he was there at UMK, that Eurovision would be the cherry on top. So, you know, knowing that, I almost didn't have a reason to watch UMK, and yet I did, because I had a sense of the occasion, you know, and because everybody else was so excited about it. That's really powerful, you know. It's one thing to draw the people who love your national final year after year, but I think it's actually pretty impressive if you're drawing people who don't love your national final and they're still like, no, but I don't want to miss out. I want to be there when it happens. I want to see what, you know, these artists that everybody's talking about. I want to see what they do on stage. So all of this gushing to say that the format is great, and I think Yle should stick with it. They've got a winning format, I think. And I mean, I would just like to maybe see a little bit more diversity, a bit more musical diversity. Like, I think that they can do more to push into musical diversity. I'd like to see, as I always would, fewer nonsense lyrics in English. Like, I feel it is nice that they kind of spotlight the songwriting process as part of the you know, as part of the show. They do kind of, they show they show us some conversations with the songwriters as well as the artists themselves. I always love that. But maybe some of those songwriters could I don't know, just not write so many nonsense. There was a fantastic comment on Twitter, I think it was, like after the final ended. It was like, I'm paraphrasing, so forgive me. This won't, this won't be such a zinger, but it was like after all of that, there's still no. Oh, that's it. After all of it, because like I say, that you get the little spot where the songwriting team like literally spends 5 minutes talking about the process of writing the song. They're like, after all of that conversation about the songwriting, we still have no idea why "Swing It Like Harry Potter" was a lyric. We still have no idea what that means, how that made it in, why that made it into the song. I'm telling you, that one lyric pushed that song to the bottom of the ranking for me for more than one reason, right? Like, obviously I don't love the reference, but also it makes literally no sense. So I would like to see, the one thing I would like to see is maybe, like, I don't know how Ula has any kind of influence on this, but I just would like, you'd think that with such a small song selection, you wouldn't be subjected to nonsense lyrics in English, nonsense English lyrics, and yet still we still end up subjected to nonsense English lyrics. But I was really heartened to see 4 songs in Finnish. That was really lovely. A Finnish language winner is, oh gosh, it's just it's, regardless of how you feel about the song, it's a refreshing thing. It's just, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, and if you are mad about Finnish lyrics, Benjamin will send you the translations himself. But yeah, I think my favorite thing about UMK every year is that they are giving each day they are releasing one song, and they are giving the spotlight is on them at that day, and I just think that's a great move from Eli, because they aren't choosing, like, they promote one song more than the other, and I think it's giving equal spotlight for everyone. Like, it's understandable that maybe the song that came out earlier and then are more gaining more popularity, but I think this year it didn't happen because Keria was like 5th to be released and blew, and Kuma was 6th and they also blew. So it doesn't matter the way that they are the order that they are releasing, but just giving every artist one day spotlight, it's great for in my opinion. As I said, I last year UMK was one of my favorite national selection. My favorite national selection song that comes from that year comes from UMK, which was Sun Numero by Ill-Hearted. It was one of my most synced song that year, so which is very embarrassing to me.
I don't even remember it.
It was that song was the favorite song from the selection of the Prime Minister of Finland. So that's that good song. But yeah, I'm always looking forward to UMK because they aren't scared to select songs that are in Finnish. That's one of the things that this is great. We finally have a song that in Finnish that won, because last year we had sung in English. I think that we called English whatever Isabelle was. I think that's English because the nonsense lyrics at its peak. And 2 years ago we had Blind Channel that was also English. Aksha was in English. And I think in 2020 that was a year that finally Finland realized, wait, that's how you should make a national selection. And from 2020 onwards, the formula works, and they shouldn't change it at all. Like, maybe with the increasing amount of songs, I am not sure, because how are we going to give the same spotlight for songs and content that you are giving us for other songs? Like, how are you going to manage it? So I'm like, maybe you can make 6 to 8 and 10. I don't know, like 2 weeks worth of I don't know. I think for now they should stick with 7, or if they win this year and decide, well, we are in the silly mood and let's do a change next year and do two shows. I know we will do 2 shows because they will be hosting it. They will have to spend more money. So I think seven songs is alright. And the show itself was great. Samu was an amazing host. I loved Bess as the opening performance. This is the performance I needed from Ram Pam last year instead of what happened last year. I think I did motorcycle on stage last year, not this year. Erasmus, he was singing from playback, so I can't say anything. And like I talk shit about Erasmus, but I really like them.
It was probably for the best. The less we hear of his
he isn't the best
live vocal
singer. Like, it's kind of a dream shattered because in the shadows was such a important song for me in my youth. That's like I'm I'm young right now, but yeah, I think the reason why we had so many pop songs this year is because maybe Ilya was like, there is so many rock songs, we need to stop. Because we had 2 rock songs in a row winning, so I think that was the reason that they decided to just to go in a more popish road this year, because I don't know what's going on in Ilya's head during this selection, but yeah, don't change. I hope Finland in Eurovision is not the greatest country in the way how the results is. Like Blunt Channel finished like 8th, and this is their second best result. So that says how they desperate they are for a great result in Eurovision. It's been like they won 1,006, and they are looking for that win. They are ready to host. They are a fun fact. The moment Cha was released, the Finnish people started looking at our cities and our arenas in Finland where they could host. So we could. So the ending of the discussion was Tampere. So we could see everyone in Tampere next year. I don't know. And just ending because this is a fun situation that happened during the show. It's going around my friend group. Our friend who is from the US and is now in Finland attended the UMK, and he's the guy who is singing at the end of the Samu interval. That Samu at the end goes to the audience and goes with the microphone to the people who should sing the song, and he's the guy who is at the end singing the nonsense. Just a fun fact, he doesn't speak Finnish, so this adds just more chaos to that. So just a shout out to him because that was an iconic moment for him. So I think we should be ending because this is a long episode, like always with Isabelle and I. But yeah, hoping the best for Finland, hoping for a top 3, even at 1 result for them, depending how the juries will like it. But I feel like it could be a jury light song. But yeah, we'll see. So, thank you, Isabelle, for joining me today. And yeah, don't forget to like and comment on this video. Tell us what you think about Cha-Cha-Cha and all the entries that talk about in UMK 2023. And don't forget to subscribe to catch everything what we are releasing. We are in the middle of releasing recaps of all the national selections, and we are close to the national finals to be finished. We only have like 2 left. So yeah, as Iris said, please subscribe, and give love to Iris because she's going through a bad time right now. So
Iris is my cat. This is Iris, little tiny Iris. She's been to the vet on this day, and yes, as Janek said, we're going through a time.
Yeah.
I just had to plug my laptop in. That's why I've moved.
Of course, to read our articles about the news, don't forget to check out our website, thateurovisionsite.com. We also have a podcast, that Eurovision podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and we also publish our YouTube videos there, and just to make more accessible for everyone. We also have social media to both our sites, our pages for that Euro site on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and for that Euro podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Also on the that Euro podcast, Eurovision podcast Twitter, we can also see some of our live tweets of national selection because of how many of them were happening in the near past. And yeah, I think it's everything I want to say. Thank you so much for listening and watching us ramp about Finland for close to an hour, I think. But yeah, thank you for watching and bye-bye.